Alex in 2015, even though 2015 was a weird year. After 14, I think it was 4, yeah, the last year or two I spent helping Mom and Dad move, so when we lived in Mass. And the first 2 years, I had health problems living in New Hampshire. And then I had a car problem. So in 2015, I finally, enough of my time was freed up. I was able to look for part-time work. And I got a little part-time job cashiering at a Hampstead, New Hampshire, the Extra Mart out there. It seemed like a nice crowd. It was weird going back to the workplace because, I left work and people didn't even have a flip phone yet. When I returned to the workplace, people were on their smartphones or on the internet, on the job. It was unheard of, I don't know, it was really, I was in a time warp for quite a while, and it was strange returning to a workplace where, people were making their own personal calls, looking up things on the internet, playing their own music from their own phone, Before, you used to have to ask to use a landline to call home, or, I don't know. Been a while. So I got this part-time job, and, I was around the Salem, New Hampshire area. It's in between, my commute from home to work in Hampstead. And, I had, the previous year, I had adopted Bella. They had, I think a little discount booklet or something that comes with the adoptions. And I had been looking around. I always kind of get in the habit of just looking in shelters to see, who's available and what condition they're in, and I don't know, things about them. I get in the habit of doing that. So, at any rate, Alex. I run across Alex, and he's all by himself again. He's very big guy. At that point, I had, King and Casey were enormous. Kind of like big cats are a different temperament. They're quiet, they're more mellow. They need a little space to run, and I have 150 square foot room, so lengthwise it runs the length of the house, so it's a good space for them to run. Big cats aren't really high strung. They're more mellow. I thought, he would make a good companion for King or Casey. He looked like one of my other cats, Rocky, that I had at the time, and I used to kind of nickname him Rocky's son, but I think he was a little bigger body type. But the eyes are very similar, and I was kind of going through a tuxedo phase at that point. And I guess part of me wanted to see what the Petco adoption process was like. I'd been through, I've been through PetSmart, Feline Friends in Salem with Miranda, Casey, and King. I had been through PetSmart in Epping with Bella. I had been through a few times with Nevin's Farm in Methuen. I'd gotten some of the pre-kitten sign, ad in the paper with Madeline. And I hadn't been through the Petco adoption process yet, So, this was kind of visiting him, and it was expensive. Petco's a very expensive adoption process. It's one of the biggest fees out there. And so I ended up applying and, being approved. Again, told them my situation and had these other tuxedos, and I thought he would make a great match, and that he did. It was probably November. Yeah, November, I think, around like maybe October, November. I think it was in the fall of 2015. And he was just very quiet, very laid back. They were an agency out of Haverhill. We get along well. He was one of those cats that just liked to snuggle up next to you. He was, him and Casey kind of used to fight over the pillow space, but to me it was more pillows. He was a pretty, enormous cat. I think sometimes at first he had trouble. One of my cats had limited vision, so he's a very big cat. I think he walks very slowly because he doesn't know he has trouble maneuvering, and I feel like if he walks, other cats think he's stalking them, but I think what it is he has trouble like maneuvering, and he wants to make sure he can get in and out of a situation if he has to. So he tends to move very slowly and very deliberately, and I think some cats are put off by that. He ends up in these small tiffs that really, aren't territorial around other things. So I tend to think maybe because of his size, it could be his body language, with the other cats. But once you get to know him, he's like a gentle giant. He doesn't really fight with anyone. He doesn't bother anyone. He's patient about food. He doesn't like push his way to the front of the line, bully other cats that way. That I, could notice. He was just very, very good guy. Alex was very mellow, kind of quiet. He was, he arrived later on in the group. He wasn't really, I don't know, one of the most prominent ones in the group. One of the group leaders. He was kind of on the outskirts, kind of in the background, but more like as a support, than maybe a leader. But later on, I think, as some of the older members passed away, he got more close, with the co-bedding and stuff, insisting on being closer to the core members of the group, like Madeline and Casey, that would sit on the bed with me, and Boo Boo. I'll get into the Boo Boo stories a little bit. Boo Boo and Alex were very strange. They could sit together, but they had to be, and I would measure it by the length of my arm, because as long as they were like, this far apart, they were fine. But if they got any closer than that, there was like a little mini swatting and hissing match until they maintained that distance. I don't know why, but Boo Boo and Alex were always like that. As soon as they were closer than 2 feet together, they would swat and hiss and want each other away from each other for some reason. But other than that, Alex really didn't have too many personality problems. I think it was just the body language issue. And once he started to communicate with other cats, he was, a valued team member like any other team member. And I think his body type had particular concerns, being, difficult to place because of size. And that's always an issue with big cats, and just being misunderstood in general, being a bigger than usual cat, and, the target of certain less than healthy practices, I guess, being a target of other industries as well, in terms of smuggling and other size issues, different weights going missing, big cats have their fair share of troubles. I don't want to downplay that because Madeline's a small cat and catching hell. I really want to emphasize that it's not just Madeline, it's not just Boo Boo, it's not just Bella. You know, there are a lot of other cats at risk for other reasons, and the big cats have their own problems. I'm very concerned about my Casey, my Alex, my Zinger, you know, my Zippy too, and my Miranda are pretty gigantic cats as well. Those, those do get targeted by some of the weirder freaks of the ketamine world as well. And we know Nashua has its fair share of needle users, and frankly, not too many social programs that don't just cater to them blindly.